Hello, hello. Lynn Loudermilk here, the practicing crafter, and I'm getting ready to head to my craft room to work on one of those thrifted items that I've been picking up. This is going to be a jewelry box, and it's for a very special little girl in my life, and it will be her first jewelry box. So I want to make it fun and whimsical and just something, I don't know, unique that she will hopefully love and appreciate for years to come. So stick around and let's see what happens. Plan A was to layer different colors of paint, but after sleeping on it, Plan B came to mind to scrap the vintage look and change over to a more vibrant palette. So to create the canvas, we are just going to add a coat of white chalk paint. Whenever I paint anything, a room, a canvas, a 3D object of some sort, I always do it the same way. I start in the corners and the edges, any crevices. Always start with the hard part first, and then painting the rest of the surface will be really easy. Tracing the lid of the box on a sheet of paper will provide a good work area to sketch out a design. We're going to maybe do something with a rainbow. Within the rainbow, maybe do some doodling, some clouds, maybe some sun rays or something like that. Now we are ready to add the design to the top. I am going to freehand this, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you could always use tracing paper and a stylus to transfer your design. Okay, so we have finished transferring our design. As you can see, I lightly sketched it. You can probably barely see it on this video. I did go ahead and grab a few things to get started. I've got my little cheat sheet here of just some thoughts that we are going to use to work on this next step. I went ahead and pulled a variety of paint brushes, a paint tray. If I'm on a roll and I'm feeling good, I don't want to have to stop just to rinse out my water. So I have 3 cups of water ready to go to rinse paintbrushes. And then I did grab some other just random items that I thought might be fun to use for the more of the whimsical doodling part of the painting. You can see I have a whole line of paints here. All of these are the FolkArt matte paints, and if you look in the description, you will find a complete list of all the colors that I will be using today. This is what I have out now, but it can always change. You just never know. When you start working through something, you could change directions pretty quick. I do want to make sure that before I put something on here, that I have put it on a scrap sheet of paper or something before I move to my main surface. So that's what we are doing here. And if you're like me and you're not necessarily a painter per se, just try this technique and see if it works for you. So I've got a handful of brushes here, and I'm absolutely not a Donna Dewberry. So I just want to make sure that I know what my paintbrush is going to do as I come around to do this. So let's see. I do not have a really steady hand. I watch people that just have the steadiest hands. And it just really makes me jealous. Because you just watch how fluid they are whenever they're doing anything. And it's a delight to watch them paint. That is also one of the things about doodling, adding additional accents. If you are not the best painter, you are going to be able to hide little mistakes here and there. Don't ever feel like you have to leave your canvas in one spot. If you're painting, turn that canvas around any way that it makes you feel comfortable to work on it. And now we are just going to try to make this as smooth of a brush stroke as possible. So what we're doing here, between each of the colors of our rainbow, we are just going to blend the two colors on either side just to mute that line a little bit. I'm going to add in some sun rays. So our paint has dried thoroughly. I have my multi-surface apple barrel paint pen that I am going to use just to outline this, and I've shaken it up really well, and now we are just going to hold it down and make sure the paint is flowing well, which it is, obviously. Make sure I don't have too much on there. Let's be very easy and see if we can outline this cloud. I don't know if you can see how easy these paint pens are to use and what great coverage they have. For these clouds, we are going to get a pencil and trace out those lines. Just doing this very lightly. We are just doodling on this box just to create this fun little whimsical element. I have grabbed an alcohol-based pen that I happen to have that has more of a, I don't know, felty tip. And we are using that just to outline. Let's start adding some other touches to our whimsical drawing using, again, the multi-surface apple barrel paint pens. I'm going to continue to doodle, if you will, these different elements across this rainbow. For this purple section, I think we are just going to maybe doodle some raindrops that are still coming down from the sky. The velvet lining of this drawer was stained, so I have removed it, and we are just going to replace the bottom with this decorative piece of paper that I have cut out. A light coat of ModPodge, and we will just place this in the drawer, burnish it in, and set it to the side to dry. I've just cut some of these pretty flowers from this decorative paper. I am going to use ModPodge. I am using gloss, but you could use whatever you like. Let me see how I want to lay these out. Let's just take a look at this real quick. Let's see. I'm only planning on putting 3 on each side, but let's see which those are going to be. Maybe move that one over a little closer to the edge. And maybe that one right there. See what this one looks like versus that one. I actually like the hot pink a little bit better. So I'll add this big one first. And then I am going to let that dry for probably half an hour. And I'll come back and add these other 2 flowers. I can make sure that each layer of my Mod Podge is thoroughly dry before I add another layer of glue somewhere in that mix. The other thing that I did was I grabbed some parchment paper, and I am going to use that to help smooth this out without having to put my fingers directly on the image. I'll take a little bit of my Mod Podge and working from the center of my flower, I am just going to make sure that I get a good thin coat of Mod Podge. I do not want to have too much glue on there. So I'm going to line that up in about the middle. I'm just going to help just make sure that I do not have any air bubbles or anything where I have just placed that flower. Right. Just lay that to the side. Make sure my edges are all down really well. Let this dry thoroughly. We've got no air bubbles or anything like that, so that's really great. And we are going to add these flowers onto here. I think that's pretty good placement. Yep, so let's do that. For me, I'm working from the center out. These were fussy cut, so they are a little delicate, and I'm just trying to be as easy with them as possible. Give this a good press. All right, let's check that. Okay, I think that one's down really well. So let's add our last little flower here. So now I'm just going to let that dry really well. And I'm going to go ahead and add a coat, just pulling into, again, that paper to make sure that I have a really good seal. And now I'm just going to take it, I'm going to take a long brush stroke to seal this up. And you don't want it to be too thick. We're going to do a couple of coats. Next, using our Mod Podge again, we are just going to decoupage a napkin on the drawers for this jewelry box. That is going to give us a background that looks like a lattice board. Now, I did forget to mention that these are 2-ply napkins, so I did have to remove the back ply before starting this process. Using a little bit of water will help remove the remainder of this napkin from the actual drawer. To keep from damaging our tissue paper, we are just going to use some parchment paper and a burnishing tool just to make sure that this is down and has no air bubbles. We let the first application dry thoroughly. Next, I am adding a thin coat of Mod Podge to the drawers as well as the entire box. This will give us a good base to continue working. All we are doing on the side of this, continue to work on it, is just to try to add a little visual interest, making it playful, whimsical. So I have found this little cog that you would use for different types of projects, but it had these little protruding nodes, and so I'm using those to help me create a design. Basically, I'm just placing this flat down, lifting it straight up, and then after each time, I am reapplying a little more paint so that it's clear that they are on there, straight up. I want to also create some grass green here in the crease just to get me started. A lot of times these things are just about getting started. If you have an idea, just start with an idea with one element. And for this jewelry box, it was the rainbow on top. April showers bring May flowers. So that's where my mind went. And so now we are creating all of these little flower elements below the rainbow. So that was the thought process. But initially, the only thing I had in my mind was the rainbow itself. And I'm just using a little craft stick that I happen to have. You could use a paintbrush or whatever you want to use, but I like to use different elements besides paintbrushes all the time. Now I am just going to take this aqua blue, and I have watered it down a little bit, but I'm going to add that into my background, which seems a little backwards, except for, again, I'm just working through this process as I'm going, and so some things come to me a little later, which is fine. We can still make it work. And I just thought that this color blue would be so pretty and kind of maybe tone down those dots a little bit. Sometimes you just have to start a project and let it take you where it wants to take you. You don't necessarily always have to have a plan. Start with an idea, but if you don't have the whole plan worked out, totally okay. Just, you know what? Just start. That's the important thing. Just start, and then things will come to you as you're working your way through this project. Be patient with the detail work and enjoy it. Enjoy the process of all the fine details. Since I already have a coat of Mod Podge over these flowers, when I make a mistake, it's really easy to immediately just remove it. I'm going to use this stylus. Again, getting away from the paintbrushes. Just every time I load, I'm going to do a blade. I'm going to come up over the initial flower design. It just makes it appear that maybe that isn't just something that is decoupaged on there. I am also going to use this just to add some interest to the grass, the simulated grasses. I did just grab some purple, perfect purple, and some Daffodil Yellow. I am going to use those to just create some little dots that resemble the cute little wildflowers that you see that are growing in the grass. Your cute little yellow flowers, sometimes pansies or violets. You never have just one. There's always 2 or 3 in a little clump. I just love little violets, and then their little heart-shaped leaves. So we are just going to let that dry. We are going to work on our lattice board. One of the other flowers that I love that comes up in the springtime, and it is usually a climber, is clematis. So I am going to use purple, my purple, and we are going to draw some clematis on this. If you've never seen this flower, it's usually made up of, don't quote me on this, but probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 leaves that are kind of pointed at the end. So what I'm doing for this one, I'm going to lay down 5 leaves for the base. Plan is to go back and add another layer of leaves once those dry. And we are going to continue painting these until I have painted these little purple flowers all the way across the top of this. So we have let this dry, and now we are going to go back and add another set of petals, not on top, but in this space. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm just going to add 3 or 4 more petals back in here. Oops, that was probably a little bit of a big petal, but that'll be okay. When we get finished, I do not think anybody is going to notice that. Petal, bring it to the middle. Petal. And a petal. Now we are going to let that dry. Place a dot in the middle of our flowers. I think that's looking really great. Once we add a little lime green just to the center, just to add a little element of another color to our leaves. I'm going to use a stylus that has a very small tip on the end, but I am just going to go around and just add a few more details. Let's just go ahead and we're going to start putting a coat of Mod Podge around the base of this jewelry box. I'm actually going to use a bouncer instead of doing straight lines. And I am just going to put a coat over this. And this is primarily just so that I can wipe it down easily, dust it off. We are adding some fun touches, a little gold paint for the sun rays, some silver lining for the clouds. What do you think about adding a shiny reflection to the raindrops? I also completed the back to match the sides. Using some buttons and a little thread, I plan to add a 3D element to the center of the flowers that are on the back of the box. We're going to put a little Gorilla Glue on here for better adhesive. Just a little bit of this to help keep that clamp down while that other glue dries. So let's see how that works out for us. Well, here's our completed project, and I think it turned out very, very cute. From the rainbow and the spring showers to the clematis and lattice board, the decoupaged flowers with a cute little background. We added some fun little elements to the back, and I just think all in all it turned out to be really cute. There were a couple of other things that I did add toward the end, some felt feet to protect the surface that this little jewelry box may be on, and some little bumpers here just to soften the sound whenever the lid closes. Just to finish it up, I did go ahead and pick up some cute little jewelry, little toddler-friendly jewelry, some barrettes, some bracelets, and a couple of little necklaces to add. So now this is ready to go to its new home, and I cannot wait to see this little girl's face when we present this little jewelry box to her. So I want to thank you for sticking around. If you decide to do a similar project, I would love for you to share it with me on Facebook or Instagram. And until next time, just get out there, create something fun, make it uniquely yours, and enjoy the process. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.